The morning alarm rang through the mining colony of New Haven, just like it had every day for the past 3 years. Workers grabbed their coffee and headed to the outer stations to dig for precious metals in the rocky ground of Kepler 442b. The planet was always dim, caught between day and night because it never turned. One side faced the sun, the other stayed cold and dark. The colonists lived right in the middle, where it was just warm enough. Jake Morrison sat in his small office drinking his third cup of coffee when the first call came in. The voice on the radio was shaky and hard to understand. "Base, this is Station 7. We have a problem out here." "A big problem." Jake set down his cup and picked up the radio. "This is Captain Morrison. What kind of problem? Station 7. The radio crackled with static. "The whole crew is gone, Captain. All 12 of them. We found blood everywhere and these huge claw marks on the walls. The marks are deep, like someone took a giant knife to the metal." Jake felt his stomach drop. New Haven had been peaceful since the first settlers arrived. The worst thing they usually dealt with was broken equipment or the occasional accident. "Are you sure they're not just missing?" "Maybe they got lost in the tunnels." "No, sir, there's too much blood." "And Captain, there's something else. The creature that did this, it's smart. It cut the power lines first, then took out the communications. This wasn't random." Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the eternal twilight of Kepler 442b cast long shadows across the colony. The mining stations were scattered around the main settlement, connected by roads and power lines. If something was hunting the workers, they were all in danger. "Pack up and get back to base immediately," Jake ordered. "Don't stop for anything." The next few hours brought more bad news. Station 3 reported finding torn clothing and equipment scattered across their work area. Station 5 went completely silent after reporting strange sounds coming from the tunnels. By nightfall, Jake had pulled all the workers back to the main colony. Helen Brooks, the colony administrator, called an emergency meeting. The main hall was packed with worried faces. Children sat close to their parents while the adults whispered nervously to each other. "We all know why we're here," Helen began. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. "Something is attacking our people. So far, we've lost contact with 37 colonists. The few survivors all described the same thing, a creature unlike anything in our database." An older miner named Bill stood up. "What exactly are we dealing with?" "I've been on 6 different planets, and I've never seen anything like those claw marks." Dr. Peter Hayes, the colony scientist, stepped forward. He was a thin man with glasses who usually studied rocks and soil samples. Now he looked pale and tired. "Based on the evidence, we're dealing with something very large and very dangerous. The creature appears to be about the size of a cargo hauler, with 6 limbs ending in razor-sharp claws. The survivors described scales that seem to absorb light, making it hard to see even with spotlights." A woman in the back shouted, "What about?" "Its eyes? My husband saw it before he ran. He said its eyes glowed like red stars." Dr. Hayes nodded grimly. "The creature's eyes do emit light, possibly as a hunting adaptation. But what worries me most is its behavior. This isn't a mindless predator. It's systematically targeting our infrastructure before attacking. It knows how to disable our defenses." Jake stepped up to address the crowd. "I've already sent a message to Colonial Defense requesting immediate assistance. Until help arrives, no one leaves the main colony. We're setting up a perimeter with motion sensors and floodlights." But even as he spoke, Jake knew it might not be enough. The creature had proven it could adapt to their technology. If it decided to attack the main colony, their defenses might not hold. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He walked the perimeter with Lisa Carter, his explosives expert, and 2 local security guards. Lisa was a tough woman who had served in the military before joining the Colonial Defense Force. She carried her equipment with practiced ease, but Jake could see the worry in her eyes. "Captain, I've been thinking about this creature," Lisa said as they checked the motion sensors. "If it's as smart as Dr. Hayes thinks, why hasn't it attacked the main colony yet?" "It could have done it already." Jake had been wondering the same thing. Maybe it's learning. studying us before it makes its move. As if summoned by his words, the motion sensors began beeping frantically. The floodlights turned on automatically, illuminating the area beyond the colony's fence. At first, Jake saw nothing. Then the shadows seemed to move. The creature emerged from the darkness like a nightmare made real. It was even larger than the survivors had described, easily 20 feet long and 10 feet tall. Its scales were so black they seemed to eat the light from the floodlights. 6 powerful limbs moved with terrifying grace, each ending in claws that gleamed like polished metal, but it was the eyes that made Jake's blood run cold. They burned like dying stars, intelligent and filled with something that looked almost like hatred. The creature studied them for a long moment, its head tilting as if considering its options. "Nobody move," Jake whispered into his radio. "Don't give it a reason to attack." The creature's head turned toward the sound of his voice, and Jake realized it could hear their communications. It was listening to them, learning their language. The thought made his skin crawl. For several minutes, the creature simply watched them. Then, without warning, it moved. Not toward the colony, but toward the power station that supplied electricity to the entire settlement. With surgical precision, it began tearing apart the power lines. The lights went out one by one, plunging the colony into darkness. Emergency power kicked in, but Jake knew it wouldn't last long. The creature had cut them off from their main power source as efficiently as any engineer. "It's not trying to kill us," Lisa whispered. "It's trying to control us." The creature finished destroying the power station and turned back toward the colony. Its glowing eyes were now the only light in the darkness. It approached the fence slowly, almost casually, as if it had all the time in the world. Jake's radio crackled with panicked voices from around the colony. People were scared, confused, and looking to him for answers he didn't have. The creature stopped just outside the fence and sat back on its haunches, watching them like a cat watching mice. "What does it want?" one of the guards asked. Jake didn't answer because he didn't know. But as he stared into those burning eyes, he realized this was just the beginning. The creature wasn't here to simply hunt them. It was here to dominate them, to show them who was really in charge on this planet. The radio in his hand buzzed with an incoming message. "Captain Morrison, this is Colonial Defense Command. We've received your request for assistance. Help is on the way, but it will take 3 weeks to reach you. Can you hold out that long?" Jake looked at the creature sitting outside their fence, its eyes never leaving his face. 3 weeks seemed like a lifetime. He pressed the radio button and tried to keep his voice steady. "We'll have to." The creature tilted its head again, as if it understood every word. Then, without warning, it stood up and disappeared back into the darkness, leaving only the memory of those burning eyes and the knowledge that it would be back. The real hunt was just beginning. 3 weeks had passed since the creature first appeared outside the colony fence. Jake Morrison barely slept anymore. Dark circles shadowed his eyes as he studied the reports scattered across his desk. The numbers were getting worse every day. 15. More colonists had died in the last week alone. The creature was getting bolder, attacking during the day now instead of just at night. It had learned their patrol schedules and seemed to know exactly when and where to strike for maximum damage. Doctor Peter Hayes rushed into Jake's office carrying a tablet full of data. His hair was messy and his clothes wrinkled from working without rest. "Captain, you need to see this. The creature's biology is impossible." Jake looked up from the casualty reports. "What do you mean impossible?" "I managed to get samples of its blood from one of the attack sites. The cellular structure changes every time I examine it. It's like the creature can rewrite its own DNA in real time." Dr. Hayes set the tablet on the desk, showing microscopic images that looked more like alien technology than living tissue. "The creature's nervous system is even stranger. It shows signs of quantum entanglement, which means it might be processing information faster than any computer we have. That's why it adapts so quickly to our weapons and tactics." Jake rubbed his tired eyes. "Are you saying it's getting smarter?" "I'm saying it was already smarter than us from the beginning. We just didn't realize it." The radio on Jake's desk crackled to life. "Captain Morrison, this is the perimeter guard. We have movement on the south fence. The creature is back. Jake grabbed his rifle and headed for the door. Stay inside, Doctor, and keep working on those samples. We need to find a weakness. Outside, the eternal twilight of Kepler 442 cast eerie shadows across the colony. Jake met Lisa Carter at the south fence where she was setting up motion sensors. Her face was grim as she worked. It's been out there for an hour, she said without looking up. Just sitting and watching, like it's studying us. Jake peered through the fence and saw the creature in the distance. It had grown since their first encounter, now easily 25 feet long. Its black scales seemed to absorb the light from their spotlights, making it look like a hole in reality itself. Maybe it's waiting for something, Jake suggested. Or someone, Lisa replied. I've been tracking its movements. It's not random. The creature is testing our defenses, looking for weak points. As if it heard their conversation, the creature stood up and began moving along the fence line. Its 6 limbs carried it with fluid grace, each step calculated and precise. The burning eyes never left the humans watching it. Jake's radio buzzed with an incoming message from Colonial Defense Command. Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Watson. We're sending additional support. Commander Amy Stone and her Hunter Corps team will arrive in 2 days. They specialize in hostile alien encounters. Jake felt a surge of hope. The Hunter Corps was legendary among colonial defenders. If anyone could handle this creature, it would be them. The creature suddenly stopped moving and turned its head toward the colony's communication tower. Its eyes flared brighter, and Jake realized it was listening to their radio transmissions. Again. It knows help is coming, Lisa whispered. The creature's head tilted, and for a moment Jake could have sworn it looked amused. Then it did something it had never done before. It opened its mouth and made a sound that was almost like laughter. Deep and rumbling and filled with dark intelligence. 2 days later, Commander Amy Stone arrived with her team of 12 specialists. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and scars on her hands from years of fighting dangerous creatures. Her team carried weapons Jake had never seen before, including plasma rifles and something called quantum disruptors. Captain Morrison, she said as she stepped off the transport ship. I've read your reports. This creature sounds challenging, but we've handled worse. Jake wanted to believe her, but something in his gut told him this was different. Commander, this isn't just a big predator. It thinks, it plans, it learns from every encounter. Commander Stone smiled confidently. That's why we brought the big guns. These quantum disruptors can damage any known form of matter. The creature won't be able to adapt to them. That night, Commander Stone's team set up a trap. They used one of the abandoned mining stations as bait, filling it with fake radio chatter and heat signatures to make it look occupied. The plan was to lure the creature in and hit it with everything they had. Jake watched from the colony's observation tower as the Hunter Corps team took their positions around the mining station. They moved with military precision. They're advanced. Weapons ready to fire at the first sign of the creature. For hours, nothing happened. Then the motion sensors started beeping. The creature emerged from the shadows, but not where they expected. Instead of approaching the mining station, it appeared behind the Hunter Corps team. It's a trap, Jake said into his radio. The creature set a trap for us, but his warning came too late. The creature moved with impossible speed, its 6 limbs carrying it through the Hunter Corps' positions like a deadly dance. The plasma rifles fired, their bright beams lighting up the darkness. But the creature seemed to flow around them like liquid shadow. Commander Stone's voice crackled over the radio. Impossible. The quantum disruptors aren't working. It's like the creature is phasing through the energy beams. Jake watched in horror as the legendary Hunter Corps team was systematically destroyed. The creature's movements were too fast, too precise. It knew exactly where each soldier was positioned and struck with surgical accuracy. In less than 10 minutes, it was over. 12 of the galaxy's best alien hunters lay dead in the dust. Only Commander Stone survived, and she was badly wounded. Jake and Lisa rushed out to retrieve her, keeping their weapons ready. The creature was nowhere to be seen, but Jake could feel it watching them from the darkness. They found Commander Stone crawling toward the colony. Her left arm twisted at an unnatural angle. Blood covered her face, but her eyes were alert and angry. "Help me up," she gasped. "That thing, it's not just intelligent. It's been studying us since the moment we arrived. It knew our tactics before we even used them." Back at the medical center, Dr. Hayes treated Commander Stone's wounds while she described the attack. The creature moved like it could predict our actions. Every time we aimed, it was already moving to a new position. It's like it could see a few seconds into the future. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Doctor, is that possible with quantum entanglement?" Dr. Hayes nodded grimly. "If the creature's nervous system is quantum entangled across multiple dimensions, it might be able to process probability calculations instantaneously. It could theoretically predict the most likely outcomes of any situation." Commander Stone tried to sit up, wincing with pain. "There's something else. During the fight, I got close enough to see its eyes clearly. There was something behind the intelligence, something that looked almost like sadness. For just a moment, it looked at me like it was trying to communicate." The radio suddenly crackled with an emergency transmission from Colonial Defense Command. "All units, this is Admiral Watson. We're tracking multiple quantum signatures approaching your position. The creature isn't alone anymore." Jake looked out the window and saw lights moving in the darkness beyond the colony. Not one creature, but three. The original creature had somehow split into multiple entities, each one moving with the same deadly intelligence. "It's not just learning," Jake realized. "It's multiplying." The three creatures approached the colony's fence and sat down in a perfect triangle formation, their burning eyes fixed on the humans inside. They made no aggressive moves, but their message was clear. The colonists were surrounded, outnumbered, and OUTMATCHD. Jake picked up his radio with shaking hands. "Admiral Watson, this is Captain Morrison. We need immediate evacuation. The situation here is beyond our capabilities." As if responding to his words, the three creatures tilted their heads in unison and made that same rumbling sound that resembled laughter. They understood every word, and they were letting the humans know it. The real nightmare was just beginning. The evacuation sirens wailed across New Haven as families rushed to grab their most important belongings. Jake Morrison stood at the colony's main entrance, watching the chaos unfold. Transport ships were landing and taking off as fast as they could, but it wasn't fast enough. The three creatures had been circling the colony for 2 days. Getting closer with each pass, they no longer just watched from a distance. Now they were testing the defenses, probing for weaknesses, and the colonists could feel their time running out. "Captain, the Martinez family is still missing," Lisa Carter reported, her voice tight with stress. "They were supposed to be on Transport 7, but they never showed up." Jake looked at his list of evacuees. Tom and Maria Martinez had 2 young children, and they lived in the residential sector near the old mining equipment. The area had been abandoned when the attacks started, but some families had been slow to leave their homes. "I'll go find them," Jake said, grabbing his rifle. "Keep loading the transports." "Don't wait for us if the creatures attack," Lisa grabbed his arm. "Captain, that's suicide." "The creatures are getting bolder. They attacked Transport 3 just an hour ago." Jake pulled free gently. "I can't leave civilians behind. If the Martinez family is trapped, they'll die when the creatures overrun the colony." The residential sector was eerily quiet as Jake made his way through the empty streets. Most of the houses had been abandoned in a hurry, with doors left open and belongings scattered on the ground. The eternal twilight of Kepler 442b made everything look like a ghost town. He found the Martinez house at the end of Pine Street, but it was empty. The front door hung off its hinges, and there were claw marks on the walls. Jake's heart sank as he saw the bloodstains on the floor. A sound from the basement made him freeze. It was soft and barely audible, but it sounded like crying. Jake moved carefully down the stairs, his rifle ready. He found her hiding behind an old water heater. A little girl with bright green eyes and brown hair, maybe 7 years old. She was wearing a dirty blue dress and clutching a stuffed bear. When she saw Jake, she didn't run or scream. She just looked at him with eyes that seemed too old for her face. Are you Emma Walsh? Jake asked gently, recognizing her from the colony records. The little girl nodded. My mommy and daddy are gone. The big shadow took them away. Jake knelt down to her level. I'm Captain Morrison. I'm here to help you. We need to get you to safety. Emma looked at him with those strange, calm eyes. The shadow isn't mean, Captain. It's just scared and lonely. It doesn't know how to ask for help. Jake felt a chill run through him. What do you mean, Emma? I can hear it sometimes when it's close. It's crying inside, just like me. It misses its family. Before Jake could respond, a loud crash came from upstairs. The house shook, and dust fell from the ceiling. One of the creatures had found them. Stay. Behind me, Jake whispered, helping Emma to her feet. They moved quietly up the stairs, but Jake could hear the creature moving around in the living room. Heavy footsteps shook the floor, and the sound of claws scraping against wood filled the air. They reached the top of the stairs just as the creature turned toward them. It was the largest of the three, easily 30 feet long now, with scales so black they seemed to absorb light itself. Its 6 burning eyes fixed on Jake and Emma, and its massive head lowered as it prepared to attack. Jake raised his rifle, knowing it would be useless but having to try. The creature's eyes flared brighter, and its claws extended to their full length. This was it. They were going to die. Then Emma stepped forward. Don't hurt him, she said in a clear, calm voice. He's trying. To protect me, the creature stopped moving. Its head tilted to one side, and the burning eyes seemed to dim slightly. For a moment, Jake thought he was seeing things. But the creature's aggressive posture was definitely changing. Emma took another step forward, completely unafraid. You're not scary. You're just sad, I can feel it. The creature lowered its head, until it was level with Emma's face. Its breathing was deep and slow, like a sleeping giant. Emma reached out slowly and touched one of its massive claws. You're lost, aren't you? She said softly. You don't belong here. You want to go home. Jake watched in complete shock as the creature's eyes closed. A low, rumbling sound came from its throat, but it wasn't the threatening growl they had heard before. It sounded almost like a whimper. Emma looked back at Jake. He's not trying to hurt us, Captain. He's trying to tell us something important. The creature opened its eyes again and looked directly at Jake. For the first time, he saw something other than intelligence and threat in those burning depths. He saw pain, confusion, and something that looked almost like hope. Emma, Jake said carefully, I need you to step back slowly. This creature is very dangerous. No, it's not, Emma said firmly. Not anymore. Watch. She looked up at the creature and spoke in that same calm voice. Sit. The creature's massive body shifted, and to Jake's amazement, it actually sat down. Its 6 legs folded under it, and it settled onto the floor like an enormous, deadly pet. The burning eyes never left Emma's face, but now they seemed gentle, rather than threatening. Good, Emma said, patting the creature's claw like she was petting a dog. You're a good boy. You just need someone to understand you. Jake's radio crackled with Lisa's voice. Captain Morrison, where are you? The creatures are moving toward the colony. We need to evacuate now. Jake looked at Emma and the creature, still not believing what he was seeing. Emma, we need to go. It's not safe here. He'll come with us, Emma said simply. He doesn't want to be alone anymore. The creature made that rumbling sound again, but this time it was clearly directed at Emma. She nodded as if she understood perfectly. He says his name is something like Kethmoran. He's been trying to build something to call his family, but he doesn't know how to ask for help. That's why he was taking apart the machines and hurting people. He didn't mean to be bad. Jake felt like his world had been turned upside down. This creature that had terrorized the colony for weeks, that had killed dozens of people, was trying to communicate. And somehow, a 7-year-old girl was the only one who could understand it. Emma, even if that's true, the other colonists won't understand. They'll be afraid. Emma looked at him with those wise eyes. Then we have to teach them. Just like I taught Kethmoran that we're not enemies. The creature, Kethmoran, stood up slowly and moved toward the door. It looked back at Emma and made a questioning sound. He wants to know if we trust him, Emma translated. He promises not to hurt anyone if we help him find his family. Jake looked at the massive creature, then at the little girl who had somehow tamed it with nothing but kindness and understanding. His training told him this was impossible, but his eyes told him it was real. Okay, he said finally. But we do this my way. No sudden moves, no aggressive behavior. And if anyone gets hurt, the deal is off. Emma smiled for the first time since he found her. He understands. He's just happy someone finally listened to him. As they walked toward the colony together, Jake couldn't help but think that everything they knew about the universe had just changed. And it had all started with a little girl who saw friendship where everyone else saw only fear. The rescue ship USS Meridian arrived at New Haven to find something no one expected. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the colony's central plaza with little Emma Walsh, and beside them sat the massive creature that had terrorized the settlement for weeks. The creature's 6 burning eyes were now dim and peaceful, and it was making soft rumbling sounds like a giant cat purring. Admiral Rebecca Watson stepped off the ship with her security team, their weapons drawn but lowered in confusion. She had come expecting to find either a destroyed colony or desperate survivors fighting for their lives. Instead, she found a scene that looked impossible. Captain Morrison, Admiral Watson called out carefully, please explain why you're sitting next to the hostile alien that's been killing our people. Emma looked up at the Admiral with her bright green eyes. He's not hostile anymore. His name is Kethmorin, and he's been trying to go home. He just didn't know how to ask for help. Dr. Peter Hayes rushed forward with his scanning equipment, his face filled with excitement and fear. Admiral, you need to see this. The creature's quantum signatures have completely changed. Its nervous system is resonating in harmony with the child's brainwaves. Admiral Watson frowned. What does that mean in simple terms, Doctor? It means they're communicating on a level we've never seen before. Their minds are somehow connected through quantum entanglement. The child can actually understand what the creature is thinking and feeling. Kethmorin turned his massive head toward Dr. Hayes and made a low, musical sound. Emma listened carefully, then nodded. He says thank you for trying to understand him. He knows you've been studying his blood samples, and he's not angry about it. He wants to help you learn about his people. Dr. Hayes nearly dropped his scanner. The creature knows about my research? Emma smiled. He's very smart. He's been watching and learning about humans since he got lost here. He understands a lot more than we thought. Admiral Watson walked closer, but kept her distance from the creature. Emma, can you ask it why it killed our people? Emma's face grew sad. He didn't mean to hurt anyone. When he first got lost, he was scared and confused. He tried to take apart your machines to build something that could call his family, but people tried to stop him. He thought you were trying to keep him trapped here forever. Kethmorin made another sound, longer and more complex. Emma listened, then translated. He says he's sorry for the people who died. He was angry and afraid, and he acted like a wild animal instead of thinking clearly. He wants to make up for what he did. Commander Amy Stone, still recovering from her wounds, limped forward on crutches. That creature killed my entire team. How do we know this isn't just another trap? Emma looked at the wounded commander with understanding eyes. He remembers you. He says you fought bravely and he's sorry about your friends. He didn't want to kill them, but they were trying to hurt him with weapons he couldn't understand. Kethmorin lowered his head toward Commander Stone and made a soft, apologetic sound. Stone stared at the creature that had destroyed her team, seeing something in its eyes she hadn't noticed during the battle. It actually looks sorry, she said quietly. But how can we trust something that powerful? Dr. Hayes was studying his scanner readings with growing amazement. Admiral, the creature's biology is even more incredible than I thought. It's not just adapting to threats anymore. It's actually changing its cellular structure to be less dangerous. The toxic compounds in its claws are neutralizing, and its aggressive hormones are dropping to almost nothing. Emma stood up and walked over to Kethmorin's massive head. She placed her small hand on his scales, and the creature closed his eyes peacefully. He's changing because he doesn't want to be scary anymore. He wants to be friends with humans. but he needs our help to contact his family. Admiral Watson looked around at her officers, all of whom seemed as confused as she felt. What kind of help does it need? Emma listened as Cathmoran made a series of complex sounds. He needs certain metals and crystals to build a quantum beacon. The materials are in your machines, but he doesn't know how to ask for them without breaking things. He was trying to gather them by taking apart the mining equipment, but that made people angry. Dr. Hayes checked his scanner again. Admiral, if the creature really can build quantum communication technology, we could learn things about physics that might advance human science by centuries. Or it could be building a weapon, Commander Stone pointed out. Emma shook her head. He's not building a weapon. He just wants his mommy and daddy to come find him. He's been lost for a very long time. Admiral Watson made a decision that would change everything. Dr. Hayes, I want you to work with the creature. If it can really help us understand quantum technology, this could be the most important discovery in human history. And if it's lying? Commander Stone asked. Emma looked at her seriously. Cathmoran doesn't know how to lie. His people are very honest. They share their thoughts and feelings with each other all the time. That's why he's been so confused by humans. You say one thing but feel another thing, and it makes him worried. Over the next few days, Dr. Hayes worked with Emma to communicate with Cathmoran about the quantum beacon. The creature was surprisingly patient, using his claws to draw diagrams in the dirt and making sounds that Emma translated into human language. He says the beacon works by creating a ripple in space-time, Emma explained as Cathmoran drew complex mathematical formulas. His family will feel the ripple and know where to find him. Dr. Hayes studied the drawings with growing excitement. These equations are beyond anything we've discovered. If this technology works, it could revolutionize space travel. But not. Everyone was convinced. Colonel Frank Mitchell arrived with a full military battalion sent by Earth Command to deal with the alien threat. He was a stern man with gray hair and cold eyes who viewed the situation as a simple military problem. Admiral Watson, he said as he stepped off his transport ship, I have orders to eliminate the hostile alien and secure the colony. Why is the creature still alive? Admiral Watson tried to explain the situation, but Colonel Mitchell wasn't interested in listening. That creature has killed 49 human beings. It doesn't matter if it can build pretty machines. It's a threat to human safety, and threats must be eliminated. Emma ran to stand between Colonel Mitchell and Cathmoran. You can't hurt him. He's not dangerous anymore. He's trying to help. Little girl, step away from the alien immediately, Colonel Mitchell ordered. That creature is a weapon of mass destruction, and I won't let it threaten human lives. Cathmoran sensed the hostility in Colonel Mitchell's voice and began to shift into a more defensive posture. His scales darkened and his eyes flared brighter. The peaceful creature was becoming the terrifying predator again. Stand down, Colonel Mitchell shouted to his soldiers. Prepare to fire. Emma placed her hand on Cathmoran's claw and spoke in her calm voice. It's okay, they're just scared like you were. Don't let fear make you angry again. The creature looked down at Emma, then at the soldiers pointing weapons at him. For a moment, it seemed like the violence would start again. Then Cathmoran made a decision that surprised everyone. He lay down flat on the ground, making himself as small and non-threatening as possible. His eyes dimmed to their gentlest glow, and he made soft, submissive sounds. Emma smiled and patted his head. Good boy, show them you're not scary. Colonel Mitchell stared at the massive creature lying peacefully on the ground like a loyal pet. What kind of military tactics is this? It's not tactics, Emma said simply. It's trust. The dawn came slowly to New Haven, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Colonel Frank Mitchell stood in the central plaza with his battalion of soldiers, all their weapons pointed at Cathmoran. The massive creature remained lying flat on the ground, his eyes dim and peaceful, while Emma Walsh sat beside his head with her hand resting on his scales. This is your final warning, Colonel Mitchell announced through his speaker. Step away from the alien, or we will consider you a threat as well. Emma looked up at the colonel with her bright green eyes. He's not an alien to me, he's my friend. And friends don't abandon each other when things get scary. Admiral Watson tried one more time to reason with the colonel. Sir, this creature could provide technology that advances human civilization by hundreds of years. We should study it, not destroy it. My orders are clear, Colonel Mitchell replied. Earth Command considers this creature a Class 5 threat. It must be eliminated before it can call more of its kind to attack human colonies. Dr. Peter Hayes stepped forward with his scanner. Colonel, you're making a mistake. The creature's quantum signature has stabilized. It's not sending any distress signals or calling for backup. It's actually trying to communicate peaceful intentions. Colonel Mitchell ignored the scientist and raised his hand to signal his troops. All units, prepare to fire on my command. Emma stood up slowly, placing herself directly between the soldiers and Kethmoran. If you want to hurt him, you'll have to hurt me first. Emma, get out of the way, Jake Morrison called from the side of the plaza. This isn't a game? I know it's not a game, Captain Jake, Emma said seriously. This is about choosing between fear and understanding. Kethmoran chose understanding. Now we have to choose too. Kethmoran sensed the danger growing around them. His body began to shift and change, scales darkening as his defensive instincts kicked in. The peaceful creature was transforming back into the terrifying predator that had haunted the colony for weeks. But then Emma placed both hands on his massive head and spoke in her calm voice. It's okay, Kethmoran. I know you want to protect me, but violence won't solve this. Show them how good you really are. The creature's transformation stopped. His scales lightened again, and his eyes dimmed to their gentlest glow. He made a soft sound that was almost like a sigh. Colonel Mitchell was growing impatient. Soldiers, that creature is preparing to attack. We cannot wait any longer. No, he's not, Emma said firmly. He's choosing to trust us even though he's scared. Watch. Emma looked at Kethmoran and spoke the same word that had started everything. Sit. The massive creature lifted his head and shifted his body into a sitting position, just like a well-trained dog, his 6 legs folded beneath him, and he looked at Colonel Mitchell with eyes that held no threat. Only sadness. The soldiers hesitated, confused by what they were seeing. This wasn't the behavior of a dangerous predator. This was the behavior of an intelligent being trying to communicate peaceful intentions. Colonel Mitchell's finger tightened on his weapon's trigger. I don't care what tricks it can perform. A threat is a threat. But before he could give the order to fire, something amazing happened. The air around the plaza began to shimmer and bend like heat waves rising from hot pavement. 3 new shapes materialized out of thin air. But these weren't the threatening forms the humans expected. The new creatures were similar to Kethmoran, but larger and more graceful. Their scales shimmered with colors that changed like oil on water, and their eyes glowed with warm, gentle light. When they moved, they seemed to flow rather than walk. Kethmoran made a sound that was pure joy, a musical call that resonated through the plaza. One of the new creatures, clearly the largest and oldest, approached slowly and carefully. Emma listened as Kethmoran and the newcomer exchanged complex sounds. That's his mother, she translated, her voice filled with wonder. She's been looking for him since the space storm separated them. The mother creature looked at Emma with eyes that held ancient wisdom. When she spoke, her voice was like distant thunder, but somehow Emma understood every word. She says, "Thank you for taking care of her child," Emma told the gathered humans. She says humans are the first species that has ever shown kindness to a lost void shepherd without wanting anything in return. Dr. Hayes stepped forward with his scanner, but the mother creature made a gentle warning sound. She doesn't mind you studying them, Emma said, but she wants to know why some humans carry weapons when others carry tools for learning. Admiral Watson looked at Colonel Mitchell. Colonel, these creatures aren't here to attack. They're here to collect their lost child. This could be the beginning of peaceful contact with an entirely new species. Colonel Mitchell lowered his weapon slowly. But our orders... Orders can change when new information becomes available, Admiral Watson said firmly. I'm taking command of this situation under First Contact Protocol 7. The mother creature spoke again, and Emma's face lit up with excitement. She says the Void Shepherds want to thank humanity for helping Kethmoran. They have technology that could help humans travel between stars faster and safer than ever before. Dr. Hayes could barely contain his excitement. Admiral, this could revolutionize space exploration. We could reach distant galaxies that would take thousands of years with our current technology. The mother creature approached Emma and lowered her massive head until they were eye to eye. When she spoke, her voice was gentle and kind. She wants to know if I would like to visit their ship, Emma said, looking up at Admiral Watson. She says I have a gift for understanding other species and they would like to teach me more about it. Admiral Watson knelt down beside Emma. What do you think, Emma? Would you like to learn about the universe from our new friends? Emma looked at Kethmoran, who made an encouraging sound. He says I should go if I want to. He says learning about others is the most important thing anyone can do. Jake Morrison walked over and placed a gentle hand on Emma's shoulder. You saved all of us, you know that? Your kindness turned enemies into friends? Emma smiled. I didn't do anything special, Captain Jake. I just listened. Sometimes that's all anyone needs. Years later, New Haven became the first human colony to host an interspecies diplomatic center. Emma Walsh grew up to become humanity's first xenocommunication specialist, helping establish peaceful contact with 17 different alien species. The plaza where everything changed was turned into a memorial garden, with a statue showing a small girl sitting beside a massive creature. The inscription read, "Understanding begins when fear ends." Kethmoran visited often with his family, bringing gifts of knowledge and friendship. He never forgot the little human girl who saw past his scary appearance to find the scared, lonely child underneath. Colonel Mitchell eventually became one of the strongest supporters of interspecies cooperation, admitting that his military training had taught him to see threats where he should have seen opportunities, and sometimes, on quiet evenings when the three suns of Kepler 442b painted the sky in brilliant colors, visitors to New Haven could see Emma and Kethmoran sitting together in the memorial garden, sharing stories and dreams about the vast, wonderful universe they were helping to unite. The Warbeast that had bowed to no one had learned something more powerful than dominance. He had learned the value of friendship, trust, and the simple magic of a child who saw the good in everyone she met.